fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets.
Hey, Christian here and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you an interview I did with Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad best-selling author, where we discuss a few hot topics like the real problem with traditional education, why so many new entrepreneurs fail, and much more. Robert Kiyosaki also shared what is probably the most important quality that you have to develop to become a successful entrepreneur. Also, how the US is taking advantage of the worst possible debts that are affecting millions of people and much more. There is also some great advice for entrepreneurs who need to sell their products and don't feel comfortable with their price, which was actually very funny. So a lot of great stuff to cover. Now, Robert is one of my favorite teachers when it comes to financial education and financial literacy. And I have so many of his books, so as you guess, I'm a big fan. In this interview, Robert Kiyosaki also shares the real reason, the truth, why he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad book in the first place, which is fascinating. And this book is arguably one of the most, if not the most, famous book in the financial education category of all time. Now, if you haven't read this book yet, I will leave the link in the description below, but let me summarize Rich Dad, Poor Dad book for you in less than a minute. Ready? Let me just... 3, 2, 1, let's get started. So, Rich Dad, Poor Dad book was published in 1997 and outlines the mindset and the steps to become financially independent and ultimately build and protect wealth. It's the story of a boy that becomes financially smart by comparing the advice received by his highly educated dad with his friend's rich dad, which had no traditional education, but he was a very successful businessman and investor. Now, in this book, Robert exposes the weaknesses of traditional education, which doesn't teach anything about the subject of money, and this is one of the reasons why, sadly, his PhD dad ended up broke and disappointed. Robert makes a simple point. If you keep following the traditional script, so go to school, get a job, save and retire, you are basically screwed. So what to do instead to escape the rat race? Ideally, you want to keep the safety of your job and build your business on the side and use your salary and your other income to invest in assets until your assets eventually become the main source of your income. Almost there. Now, most people get really confused when it comes to assets and liabilities. And that's why most people believe that the house they live in is an asset when it's actually a liability. Now, why is that? It's because an asset produces money for you, but a liability requires your money. So when people consider the house they live in as an asset, most of the time it's not true, unless it produces money. So if you understood the difference between an asset and a liability, give me an example in the comments section. Now, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book. However, the very first book that I've read written by Robert Kiyosaki was actually the Cashflow Quadrant, the Guide to Financial Freedom. This one.
Holy moly!
Which is probably my favorite because it focuses on one simple concept. If you want to become financially free, you have to move from the left side of the quadrant to the right side. Now, if you haven't read the book or you are not familiar with Robert Kiyosaki's work yet, what I just said probably doesn't make any sense to you. So let me explain. Based on Robert Kiyosaki Cashflow Quadrants book, there are 4 main quadrants. Okay, so you have a left side and the right side. On the top left side, there is a E. The E stands for employees. If you stay here, you have a job. Below there is self-employed and professionals. So in this category, you own a job. Now, if you move to the other side, on the right side, on the top you have the B, which is business owner. So you own a system and people work for you. And below there is the I, means I investors. Money works for you. Now, the main distinctions between the left and the right side of the quadrant is that on the left side, you get paid for your time, but on the right side, you leverage 2 things: OPM, other people money, and OPT, other people time. Plus, you can benefit from tax relief schemes, which ultimately accelerate the process of becoming financially free. Use this cash flow quadrant model to describe my mission here with this channel is to help you move from the left side to the right side. So if you're new to this channel, subscribe to receive my best advice on wealth creation, personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. And use your Muay Thai skill to smash the bell to get a notification every time I release a new video every Monday. Done? Great. I want to acknowledge Success Resources for giving me the opportunity to interview Robert Kiyosaki during one of the events in London. And especially thanks to my mentor, Veronica Tan, which is the global general manager of this company, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. Now, let's come back to business and straight into my interview with Robert Kiyosaki. The first question I asked Robert was about his Rich Dad Poor Dad book and how he came up with this idea. But I didn't expect this answer.
The real truth of it is my wife and I in 1996 created the cash flow board game. And because we only could produce, 200 at a time, the board game had to sell for $200. And I said, so how are you going to sell a $200 board game? Being an entrepreneur, right? Your price is so high, I think it cost me about $70 to produce one game. So how do I sell a game that perceived value is $19? It's a pricing differential. So I took a class, on how to sell expensive things. And so the guy that taught the class was a great guy because he charged $25,000. He would charge me $25,000 to write one letter for me, one 2-page letter. And I said, $25,000 for a 2-page letter. And then he nailed us. He says, that's the challenge. You see, if we don't perceive our product to be worth $25,000, we can't ask for the money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if I still think it's worth $19.95, the public will think it's worth $19.95, but it's going to cost me $70 to produce. So to make it work, I had to ask for $200. And so this guy's a great guy, So he said, now go home. So I held my little board game up, cash flow, and I stood in front of the mirror and I said, and this is the cash flow board game, and I gave it the features and the benefits, and the price is only $200. And I started cracking up because I didn't believe it was worth $200. So for days and weeks, Kim would come home, what are you doing? I said, I'm practicing. And I was practicing asking for $200. And I stayed there asking the question, it's worth until I got comfortable with the value of $200. And that's as I did that, I got clear on the value of my product. But the real answer was, and it also inspired more creativity because entrepreneurs run on creativity. And so I said, I better write a brochure to sell this game. And that brochure was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I said, what was the genesis? What caused me to create this cash flow game? Was the story of my Rich Dad and my Poor Dad. So to help sell the game, I sat down and I cranked out a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the book took off and it sold the game. So that's really the whole process of it. And that's why Rich Dad Poor Dad has now sold 30 to 40 million copies. Who knows how many they've printed in so many different languages in all the world. But if I hadn't gone through that process of standing in front of the mirror saying, and this board game.
Let me know in the comments below if you already learned something. Now, the next question is very relevant for anyone who is considering to become an entrepreneur or start their own business. What's the biggest challenge with most aspiring entrepreneurs that want to start their business?
Most people can't sell. And I was a pretty good salesman by then anyway. I was number one. When I left the Marine Corps, I was a pilot for them, and I was offered a high-paying job flying for the airlines. But I didn't want to be an employee. So I went to work for Xerox, not because I liked copiers. I didn't care for the product. But Xerox had a great sales training program. And so for months, it just knocked on doors, taking rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection, until the point I got comfortable with rejection. And that's where most people don't make it, is because they can't take rejection. And rejection is really a good thing, because if you learn from the rejection, you get better. But most people, especially today, quit. It's too hard, I quit. So they don't have that resilience to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So it's not just standing in front of the mirror, it's everything. It's how resilient are you in almost everything you do. And I hate to say this, most people don't. They have it, but they don't test it.
Mm-hmm. Some people seems they don't allow themselves to fail. They quit before, and that's probably the biggest
Because I went to
problem.
school. What a waste of time that was, huh?
Okay.
I mean, they tell you don't make mistakes. I mean, how in the world do you learn if you don't make mistakes? You know, Thomas Edison failed 1,014 times before he invented the light bulb. Mm-hmm. You know, school teacher would have punished him on the first failure.
Let me know in the comments below if you are still committed to build your business and do whatever it takes to succeed. Now, Robert Kiyosaki was one of the first to point out the challenges with the traditional education and how the system was designed to keep us poor. So I had to ask this question. There is so much information out there that can help people to become financially free, but the traditional education seems to move too slow and not really providing that information anyway. Not mentioning the entire financial system that seems broken. So what's your view on it, and what do you do to keep up with your education?
I do them all. I mean, I'm reading constantly. I go to seminars to learn. I mean, one of the best things about my job right now is, like, I get invited to different seminars to speak, but I also go to listen to certain speakers. And that's where you get your information, because my latest book is called Fake. It's fake money, because all money is fake today. It's printed. There's nothing behind of it. Then there's fake teachers. Education system is corrupt. It is corrupt, bankrupt, obsolete, out of touch, and doing a disservice to humanity. And then fake assets. Our assets come from Wall Street. If you trust those sons of you're crazy. Do you know what I mean? So our whole system is set up to rip people off. So education should not, it's not about memorizing the right answer, it's being aware of what's going on. So when I say fake money, fake teachers, fake assets, they're all the same problem. They're all one system. And it's only coming out now how corrupt education is. I mean, it's as corrupt as a banking system. So that's why you have in America today, I don't know what the rest of the world, the biggest asset of the US government are student loans. So they're now picking on students to get their money and punish them for the rest of their lives with student loan debt, which is the worst debt possible. And who benefits from that debt? The school system and the government. So it's criminal. And from my point of view, it's criminal right now. Not that education is less important, but the delivery systems of government, Wall Street, and schools are corrupt. That's why I wrote Fake.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you.
For your time.
I'm so upset everybody out there. You know, I'm taking on three institutions of higher religion: the government, schools, and Wall Street.
That's why
But they're
people
all
love you
corrupt.
so much.
What's that? Take it for what you value. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Keep getting smarter. You know, choose your teachers wisely. Don't listen to me, but choose your teachers wisely.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this interview. If you want to keep learning more about wealth creation, personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship, subscribe and click the bell to receive a notification when I release a new video every Monday. Next week, I will go deeper into the cashflow quadrant, sharing with you what I believe to be the best opportunity for 2020 if you don't have a lot of money to invest. So be smart, stay safe, and I will see you next week.